a lot of commercial benefits. Lets you, as an energy-using business, decide which kind of fuel sources you're going to use, whether you're going to use the grid, or whether you're going to use the other fuel supplies you have, like natural gas. That's a really big deal. It also lets you, if you have a big renewable source like wind and solar, it also, if you make that generation close by and you make it low enough cost, that really lets you take the variability out of the other green sources you have, which is tremendously important. So I'm a big supporter of this. I really am excited about it. I think it fits in very well with the kinds of things we're trying to do. I'd love to see us have a whole data center running on this at some point when they're ready.
Among the companies, Walmart is the first to have deployed these in multiple locations. So, Bill, would you tell me about the strategic decision to put, as Leslie Stahl would say, balloon boxes in multiple sites? What does that mean?
Energy servers,
I
right,
know,
KR?
We have 2 locations installed. They've been operating, as promised since the fall. First in Hemet, California, and then in Lancaster, California. And we did have one complaint, KR. I told you this morning at breakfast during the installation. The store manager got a phone call from one of the neighbors and said, "These things you just installed, they're so loud. What did you put in?" And the store manager, was confused because they're whisper quiet. So he ran back there to find somebody with a chainsaw, trimming the trees around the back that had nothing to do with the installation. But that was the only customer feedback that we've had so far. The store's running, both stores are running as promised. Like the load's carrying somewhere between 60 and 80% of the load of the buildings as designed, depending on the peak. And for us, as we continue our march, our learning in the sustainability world, scale is important to us. The ability to do it once is interesting. The ability to do it multiple times in scale is a significant benefit to our shareholders. And so we're very pleased to be one of the first multi-unit customers that you have, and are pleased with the performance and look forward to the journey.
Thank you. John, let's bring it back to you and bring it home to you as our host. I understand that after today's session, many of today's guests, those who choose, are going to have an opportunity to visit the Leeds building and the installation here of Bloom servers. I also understand that eBay is the first Bloom customer to commit to a system that's powered 100% by biogas or green gas, making it zero carbon electricity. Why is that, being carbon neutral, important to you and your employees?
Well, like so many companies, we've set carbon goals to reduce our carbon footprint. In our case, we're going to reduce our carbon footprint 15% over the next 3 years, and we envision our business growing substantially during that time. But one of the things that was just eye-opening for me and for us was using biofuels instead of natural gas, because as KR said, by using biofuels, that is fuels that come from some sort of garbage dump, it's 100% renewable, so that it is 100% clean. You said that we could use unlimited power. That's not our goal, but and not only is it 100% clean renewable, but as I understand it, it's in essence taking net carbon out of the environment, because the gases, when they come from a garbage dump, emit a harmful gas into the environment. And by taking that and putting it into the Bloom servers, we're actually reducing the net impact on the environment. So it's 100% clean for us, but in a broader sense, it even has a positive benefit. So we're excited about this, and the biofuel dimension of it we think is unique, and it's an important part of our commitment to it.
Well, thank you very much, all of you, for supporting
And we welcome everyone to join us on the tour after this is done to see the building that it's powering, which is just a couple hundred yards from here.
Speaking of powering, I think this is the most powerful panel I've ever had the opportunity to moderate. Seriously, Ray Lane taught me to add, and we have represented here the leaders of 4 million employees worldwide. and about $500 billion, $480 billion of revenues among the world's leading companies, all of whom have in common Bloom Energy, brought to you by Scott Sandell of New Enterprise Associates and Kleiner Perkins. We're going to hear now from some, these are our foundation customers, from some other important sponsors and fans of Bloom Energy. So I'd ask you to roll that video, please, while everyone takes a seat. And we'll have time for questions at the end of this session. Thank you. Roll video.
In these tough economic times, innovative companies like Bloom Energy really give me hope. These kinds of clean energy technologies can and should shape the future of our economy.
This was a company poised to play a leading role addressing the crucial challenges of our time, climate change and energy independence. Today, that promise has come true, and no one is more thrilled by that than New York City.
You've developed an innovative fuel cell system capable of producing energy that's cleaner and more efficient than gas, oil, or coal, and more reliable than wind or solar power.
I well remember my visit to Bloom back in September of 2006. My first reaction was that this was a company guaranteed for greatness. Make no mistake, when we look at Bloom Energy, we are looking at the future of business, at the future of our economy, and at the future of America.
Been working with you guys for 7 years, and you've got a great product. A box that produces 100,000 watts and has no noise, no moving parts, super clean. Just exactly what the world needs today. You and SunPower were the two big bets I made with my time about 10 years ago, and I think you guys are going to move right in there as one of the most important energy companies in America.
Hello, it's Patrick Pichette here at Google. And as we had our first customers about 10 years ago, everybody needs a first customer, and we were Bloom's first customer. We're really proud of that, and we obviously wish them great success. But for us, it's been really transformative. We have a huge energy agenda where we're looking for innovation, and we're an innovation company, and we love to partner with innovators, so a great partnership. We've installed one of their units into one of our R&D center, and it's been producing not only sustainably low emission electricity, but on top of that, really cost efficient.
What is great about Bloom is it's not about environmentalism, it's about pragmatism. It doesn't defy the laws of economic gravity like most green technologies do. It's not pay more for something, it's pay less. And the customers of Bloom today are testimony to the economics of the Bloom product.
This technology is fundamentally going to change the world. Bloom boxes not only can help consumers reduce their dependence on the electric grid here at home, but they can also bring modern energy to the planet's most remote villages, giving power and light to the world's estimated 1.5 billion people still living without electricity.
The exciting thing about Bloom is that the ultimate cost of this will be dramatically lower than the cost of buying electricity from the grid. But as with any of these new technologies, they start out in small volumes being more expensive. Bloom has done a remarkable job of moving those costs down dramatically. In fact, we think they could decline by as much as 60 or 70% over the next 2 years.
When we started hearing about the energy crisis, I knew that there would be no solution that didn't pay for itself, and I felt strongly that both solar energy and fuel cells will do it. I also felt that it wasn't going to come from the government or from big corporations. I felt that Silicon Valley would solve these problems, and I'm just really proud to be part of your effort to help solve America's energy problem.
Isn't it wonderful to see from that video montage that there are at least a few things that all sides of the aisle, as long as they're a human being, can agree upon? That's great for our political process. I want to thank all the speakers, John, for doing it, and the panel members. For our final keynote speaker, I wanted to introduce to you a gentleman who joined the board in 2009. Not probably, the most recognized face on the planet. He is a most decorated general, a consummate gentleman, and more importantly, a very important mentor and a dear friend, General Colin Powell.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Thanks, buddy.
Well, thank you all very much for being here this morning, and I was extremely impressed by this panel of 6 gentlemen. 4 million employees. Wow. I used to have 4 million employees. And boy, did they use energy. And we used to have to drag our energy along with us. Some of the places we went, there were no grids. So we dragged along noisy generators, and we made do, and we were as innovative as we could be. The military, surprisingly, is one of the most innovative organizations on earth. We started the internet. The GPS in your car, we put it. And so we are always looking for these kinds of things, and as part of my career, moving up finally to become chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, we were always looking for innovative things. And so when I left public service in the beginning of 2005, after a total of 40 years in the military world and in the political and diplomatic world, I was looking for what next to do. And John Doerr came to me and said, why don't you come out and play with Kleiner Perkins and become a strategic limited partner in Kleiner Perkins? And I spent time with John, and I thought, this is exciting, and it's different from anything I've ever done before. And I always like to go through life looking through the front windshield and not the rear view mirrors. And in the front windshield, you can see what's ahead, what's coming along. And so I joined Kleiner Perkins, and I started to look around at the various companies that we had invested in. And one of the first that I visited was what became Bloom Energy. And it was exactly 5 years ago next week that I visited the garage. In those days, everything has to start in a garage. Right, Larry? Everything starts in the garage somewhere. And I went into the garage, and he was explaining to me what he explained to you about the sand and the anodes and the cathodes and all that, and I'm just staring. Okay. And fuel cells have been around for a long time, so what's going to make this different? But over the next 5 years now, to include 1 year being on the board of Bloom Energy, I became more and more persuaded that KR and his team knew what they were talking about. And those that were investing in the company knew what they were doing. And I was convinced that this was a breakthrough technology, a breakthrough product. And it also fit in with my larger sense of where the world is and what I've been thinking about, particularly as Secretary of State. We face a number of crises in Iraq and Afghanistan, Iran, North Korea. We have an economic problem that we're working our way through here in our country. But as I took a broader look at the world, I saw different forces at work. Different forces that were more important than the kind of things and forces you see on television every night. I saw a world that had come out from behind an iron curtain and a bamboo curtain. I saw a world that was focusing on wealth creation. I saw a China that emerged, and India that was now a strategic partner and no longer on the other side of the ledger from us. I saw an Eastern Europe that had come out from Soviet domination. And they were all focusing on the same thing. How do we create wealth? And if we become political democracies, how do we become economic democracies to satisfy the needs of our people? I saw the same thing in Latin America, where all those countries emerged from dictators and El Jefes, except for one or two that remain. But the real future of Latin America is what you see in Brazil and Mexico and Chile and Argentina and places like that. And increasingly, I saw these countries trying to figure out how do we create more wealth, not just for the wealthy, but wealth that will bring people up out of poverty, give them clean water, education, give their children hope for a better future. How do we create that kind of wealth? I looked at China, that in a period of 30 years has gone from nowhere, from my first visit in China 38 years ago to where it is today, perhaps the second largest economy in the world, competing with Japan for that title, but the largest exporter. And hundreds of millions of people have been moved up out of poverty into the middle class, not only in China, but around the world. more countries living under democratic systems which require economic democratic systems in order to satisfy the needs of the people.